Welcome to lesson 2 in my planned series of about 6 lessons, each of which I hope to be about 10 minutes. I'm David. This is my YouTube channel. Thank you for visiting. I hope you get something out of this. And the first lesson talked a lot about the basics of strumming. You notice I'm using a strap. I'm holding the pick at a 45-degree angle. I'm doing all the things that I think are going to give me a good sound without having to change my hand position or my elbow positions a lot. And we're going to talk about basically decorating chords. How do you take a simple set of chords and make them not so simple, make them more interesting for people? First, we're going to define some terms. And the first term I want to talk about is hammering. And hammering is just this. It means you play a note and then you bring your finger down, smack, and you make another tone. Okay? The opposite of that is what's called a pull-off, where you play a tone with a fretted finger and then you pull it off. Now, pull is this way down the board. A push-off is the other way. Most people play mostly pull-offs, which is this. Push-offs tend to be more of a banjo player thing. It's just not that common. So I'm going to just call them all pull-offs, and you can figure out for yourself when you're doing these things, which of them work better for you. Okay, one of my big things is what I call strumming with intent. Strumming with intent means that you're strumming along the way you think you should. And you're picking where you're strumming. In other words, from the time I start strumming, and here's the C to the upper C. I could strum all 6, but I'm going to talk about the inner 4 for a minute. As I'm strumming, those are the only ones I want to strum at this point. There, I have my reasons. Part of it is variations. And when I teach students, I teach them get a good, big, basic strum. And use that a lot. But then you can break it into little pieces, like here, which I was doing a second ago, is a C chord where I'm emphasizing the bass notes for a second and then the treble notes. And notice I'm using my right hand muffling to smooth out the sound of those bass tones. Here it is without muffling. Sounds a little aggressive. So what I was doing there was I got this, and then I just do a little walk to, and notice all I'm doing is strumming, but I'm narrowing the range of where my pick is hitting so that I'm hitting that walk down. C, B, A. In my right hand, I'm doubling. Instead of just, I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's all the same strumming motion. It's all the same work for your right hand, but you're picking where you're strumming. And you're leaving yourself open to being able to add nice bass lines, being able to add melody, being able to add decorations and passing chords. For example, a lot of times people will play a chord like C for a long time, and I'll play so notice I'm doing the same strum, but I'm adding something that makes it better. And other times people can add passing chords like, if the song goes C to F, I'll play. What was I doing? It's C, D minor, E minor, F, which are the chords on the way up between a C and an F. And we'll talk about a little bit of music theory in another lesson. But mostly this lesson is about making chords sound interesting without a lot of work. For example, here's one of my favorite little deals. Okay, I'm playing an A chord, and I go, and all I'm doing is, here's the A, and I take my little finger, pull it off to the B, ring finger, pull it off to the G. And it just makes things sound a lot more interesting. We all know stuff like little things on D, and so you add, and there I'm just lifting the F sharp and making what's really a D add 2, and then you can do things like we're just lifting things up, putting them back down, and you can do things on C. We'll get into bass lines later, but the big thing to notice is I'm strumming with intent. I'm working on hitting just the notes I want to hit. Sometimes I'm restricting the chord to just a few notes. Which is really kind of like lead playing, but if I'm using the same strum, I'm just restricting the range of motion. Now, you got to know which of the variants are musical. For example, if I'm playing along with an A minor, I don't want to hit a C sharp, because that's a whole different animal. It's not going to be in the key that you're in unless it's a very strange song. But you can lift up that C finger. And then the A, you can lift that up. And all I'm doing there is adding some notes in that are in the key. That's vital. Musical variation is always based on two primary important factors. First, the key, always the key. Second, the melody. What are you doing to accompany, either directly or with counterpoint, the melody? And the third one, which often is there, is the chord you're playing. For example, if you play a C7 in C, the B flat's not in that key, but you can add it. And it's going to sound okay because you're in a bluesy mode. Now, then what you do is you're putting all this stuff into the stew. You're adding potatoes and onions and garlic and celery and everything else. And so you put it all together and you do strumming with intent, changing your range of motion, hitting bass, alternating with treble. You're using your right hand muffling to make it mellow. And then you're doing... And there I was doing right hand muffling, left hand muffling, pull-offs and push-offs, and various alternations just to get what I wanted into the chord base, just to make it easier and more melodic and just functionally more interesting. Now, as a final note, I'm talking about short sequences of melody, and we're going to get into this in more detail later, but it has to do with being able to play parts of a song and adding in the melody notes. And here's a little example we'll work on later, Wayfaring Stranger. And I'm going... Some people call this playing inside the chord. I call it adding the melody in. Another one that you can do that's really straightforward is just change your inversion. In other words, the first time through a song, you're playing a bunch of open chords. The second time through, you play. You move up to another one. This is an F on the C bar. So you're playing, let's take a better example, which is D. So I'm playing, and you can use bar chords, because those are what you probably know, or you can use what I use a lot, which is partial chords with open stringing, which I call drone stringing, because these are kind of just ringing. In other words, change the inversion. Inversion musically means you reorder the notes of the chord, so they're not in standard order or they're in a different order. And it's all about getting variety, so that as you work with a piece of music, you find yourself letting the tension and musical interest build from segment to segment. Okay, thank you very much, and hope you keep tuning in. Bye-bye.